It would have been my husband's birthday this week, Wednesday. He had his heavenly birthday on Wednesday, and it's the saddest day of the year for me. My sister-in-law in Canada sent me a very kind, thoughtful message telling me she was thinking about me. And something about that, the kindness of it, the fact that someone else remembered other than the children, made it hit me all again. The plans we had, the goals we shared, the future we'd mapped out together, it was all gone, just like that. And here I am facing life and retirement on my own. And it's not that I'm feeling sorry for myself. Maybe I was that day. But generally, I don't feel sorry for myself. But that day, I felt beaten for the whole day. I couldn't feel motivated or inspired to do anything much at all. And in the afternoon, I went and lay down, which I very rarely do. But I want to talk about that today because I think a lot of people watching this know exactly what that feels like. Hi, if you're new here, my name is Leslie, and welcome to my channel. I came online after my husband passed away. I was looking for a purpose, more than anything else, a reason to get out of bed in the mornings. But that eventually grew into an online business I still run today, even though I've retired now and I collect my state pension. But I share this chapter of life honestly, the retirement reality, the things that nobody really tells you about or prepares you for, and what it actually looks like to keep going when keeping going is the last thing you feel like doing. And I had a lot of days that I felt like that. But I've come to realize over this time that nobody really prepares you for is that widowhood is exhausting, and not just in the obvious ways, not just the missing him, because I do miss him. And it's not just the grief that arrives without warning on a birthday or a quiet Tuesday afternoon or a piece of music plays that holds special memories. And I have whole months I can't remember. And looking back, it's like trying to fill in the blanks. And the scary thing is, I can't. And then there's the weight of everything now resting on your shoulders, the decisions, the finances, the how-tos, the questions that nobody else can answer for you. Because when you shared your life with someone, and we shared 34 years, you share the load of it too. And when they've gone, all of it falls on you, every single bit of it. And I never once, all the time we were together, ever thought I wouldn't be with him till the end. You know, a little bit naive, a little bit crazy maybe, but that's the truth and that's the way it was. But I've spent so long wondering if life would ever feel normal again. I genuinely thought I would always feel that way. I couldn't see a future, heck. I couldn't even imagine one, never mind see one. And the truth is, my normal changed the day he died, because that life I knew was gone. And it did go like that, but it didn't feel like that because there was things that had to be done. There was funeral arrangements. There were, oh, all those horrendous things that you have to deal with when someone you care about dies. So that momentum kicked in and that carried on for a little while. But then suddenly the realization did hit that it was gone and everything became unfamiliar. It felt unfair and it was overwhelming. And I was so angry. Sometimes even now I can be angry. And I tried very hard to fight against that new normal. I wanted to outrun it, to push through it, almost as if I could be stronger than it, which of course, how crazy is that? I became exhausted. And it was only when I finally began to slow down at the beginning of this year, when I moved into my new house, I stopped fighting so hard against what was. That something started to change, and it wasn't an overnight transformation. I mean, it's taken me 4 years to get here. And I want to tell you a little bit about Philip because I think it matters. Someone asked me just the other day, was he the life and soul of the party? And he wasn't exactly, but he was the center of my universe and certainly the center of our children's universe. He had this innate ability. People were just drawn to him. He was a wonderful conversationalist when he got going. His passion was history, but he loved people above everything. He had this enthusiasm for living that I've never quite seen in anyone else. No matter how challenging life became, he would still smile, sometimes quietly, other times the cheesiest of grins. And he was always there to help other people, whether it was the man that fell down in the street that he took back to his house, or a friend around the corner that needed help with something. He was always there. Nobody was so unimportant that they didn't deserve his help. And he used to walk on his tiptoes as if he couldn't get somewhere fast enough, like he was trying not to run. That much enthusiasm for life, for people, for the next thing that he didn't even know what it was going to be. He was also a true gentleman, an absolute gentleman. He never forgot to hold the car door for me, never forgot to hold my chair when I sat down for dinner in the evenings. And if I pulled up on the drive, having been grocery shopping, the car full of carrier bags, even if he was working, as long as he wasn't on a phone call, he always came out and carried them in for me. He cherished me and always had my back, and I didn't realize that, not fully, until he was no longer here to do it. Those small, consistent acts of care, the ones you stop noticing because they're always there until they're not. And that's what hurts. And if nothing else, Philip taught me to live life to the full. That's what he modeled every single day. And I carry that with me. And it's really hard not to miss somebody like that, to have that person standing beside you. And I want to say something about the things people say when you lose a partner, because I think it needs to be said. People try to compare my loss to losing a parent. When my dad died, November 1st of last year, he was 89. He had lived a long, full life, and losing him was painful. Of course it was. I love my dad, but a spouse is not comparable to a parent. Philip didn't get that opportunity. He didn't get to grow old. He didn't get the years he deserved. I think the only thing that can be possibly worse than losing a partner is losing a child. Can't imagine that. But that comparison of losing a parent, I'm not sure I have quite the right word for it. Inadequate? Yeah, it's inadequate. And a lot more besides. And then there are the people who have never lost anyone significant, who compare it to losing a family pet. I mean, really, I love my pets with all my heart, and I don't know where I would have been without them this last 4 years. But they could never walk in the shoes of my husband, not even close. And then, meant kindly, I know, people say, well, at least you have the children. And I do have the children, and I love them more than anything else in the world. But they're not him. I don't talk to them the way I talk to him. They can't fill his shoes for me. That's not their role, and it wouldn't be fair to make it so. The thing is, grief is not a competition. And I don't think loss can be measured against someone else's loss and found to be equivalent. What I lost was irreplaceable, and no comparison, however well intentioned, changes that. Widowhood is by far the hardest journey I have ever been on, but I have learned things about myself that I would never have discovered any other way. I am stronger and more fearless than I ever imagined I could be. Because for a long time I stood in Philip's shadow, not unhappily. Oh, I did it willingly. He was so capable, so confident, so at ease with the dealings of life. that I let him lead. And then suddenly I had to figure it all out myself. The finances, the decisions, the practical realities of life I'd never had to face alone before. And what I found, if I don't know how to do something, I find out how to do it now. And usually, well, I used to ask Philip, now I have to go down other routes. In fact, honestly, ChatGPT has been a bit of a godsend. That tool, my AI best buddy, has sorted out more problems for me than you could believe. Whether it's been a cooking recipe or it's been how to get my electric box sorted, all kinds of things. And it hasn't been smooth, and it's been pretty chaotic at times. And on some occasions, it's been frightening because it's involved making mistakes and starting over and doing things, even though I've got it wrong again and again. I've had to carry on anyway. But I am a fighter, and that's something I know without a shadow of a doubt. And also along this journey, I've learned to say no. I'm not afraid to say no anymore, and that has taken time to get to. Time and effort, actually, and I don't care as much as what people think. That has given me a peace I didn't expect. Because so many of those opinions from people who are not walking this path, who are not in this position to judge, simply don't matter the way I once thought they did. Now, this week I had my regular Wednesday outing with Ken, my girlfriend's 83-year-old dad, and we go to the butcher's, run a few errands, and have meaningful conversations. It was Philip's birthday that day, and I was intentionally cheerful. I was deliberately talkative. Present in the way you learn to be when you don't want to burden someone else with what's sitting inside you. But inside, while Ken was driving, I was reliving everything again. The memories, the what ifs, the plans that never got to happen. And yet I showed up, I got dressed and walked out the door. And I didn't even not feel like it, but I went out positively. And some of that is to do with discipline, because sometimes discipline is the only thing that works when motivation has completely abandoned you. The thing about grief, it doesn't follow a timeline. You don't get the funeral away and the celebrations afterwards and you go back to your normal life. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't happen a year later. It doesn't happen 2 years later. Grief doesn't follow a timeline, that's for sure. And it doesn't respect your diary or your deadlines or the fact that you had things planned. It arrives when it wants to. And sometimes all you can do is let it be there while you carry on anyway. That old discipline, stepping in, isn't about pushing feelings away. It's about honoring the commitments that keep your life moving, even when your heart isn't in it. And ironically, sometimes moving is the only thing that helps. But before I go, I want to talk about what actually started to help me. Because when Phillips died, I didn't have a plan. I mean, we were about so organized that he had life insurance and we had wills. So I wasn't looking for a business or a strategy or a new direction. I was just trying to get through the days. But somewhere in all that searching, in the need for something to focus on, to get out of bed in the mornings, and that's what I was struggling with, I found affiliate marketing. And I want to be very clear on this. It didn't fix anything. Grief doesn't get fixed. It changes shape over time, but trust me, it doesn't disappear. What it did was give me something that was mine, something to learn and to work towards. It gave me periods of the day where I had other things to think about, other things I could focus on, something to learn and to work towards. And it got me to open my laptop on the days when I didn't want to open anything at all. So one thing is very clear: purpose doesn't have to be grand. It doesn't have to be a calling or a passion or something that sets your soul on fire. Because if you feel like I did, the thing that set my soul on fire was no longer there. So sometimes that purpose just has to be something to do today, nothing grand. And that purpose, that something, just has to matter a little bit. And it's a small thing repeated day after day that it ultimately becomes something bigger than you expected. And that's the good thing, that's the upside. Because affiliate marketing also gave me a community. It gave me people to talk to, people who asked questions and needed answering. And that was nice. It made me feel needed. And it was people who reminded me that I knew and had experience, and experience had value. So don't ever underestimate what you've gone through, because one of the quietest cruelties of losing it as a partner is that you lose your most consistent audience. And I know you don't think about them as your audience, but it's the person who was most interested in you specifically. And finding even a small version of that through an online community, through content, through conversations with strangers who become familiar faces. I mean, it's incredible how much they help more than I expected. So yes, this week was hard. I won't pretend otherwise, and I'm glad it's Friday. And some days still are hard, and I suspect some days always will be. But I'm still here. I'm still building my new life. I've moved into my new home. I'm getting settled in. I'm getting organized. And I'm still showing up for Ken on a Wednesday morning, for the people in my community, in my Facebook group, but most importantly, for myself. And I can promise you, every day doesn't feel hopeful. But because I've learned that hope doesn't always arrive as a feeling, sometimes it arrives as a decision to open that laptop, to write that post, to answer the message, to just get dressed and go out, even when every part of you wants to stay in. At least retirement has given me the freedom to do exactly what I want. And if that is going back to bed in the afternoon to hide under the sheets for a little while, so be it. If you're navigating loss, maybe retirement on your own, or simply the quiet loneliness of having no one to run things by, I want you to know you're not the only one. And if you're curious about what helped me find purpose, the simple online business I built from nothing, and it gives my day shape and brings an income in I've earned myself. The link is in the description below. Take a look in your own time, no pressure. If this video resonated with you, please give it a like and hit the subscribe button to follow along with my journey. And if you know someone who is struggling, share my message. It may help. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.